see the fleet is on starboard, currently lifted on a right shift, so everyone will be easily able to make the line. The boat closest to us is too early, and as the boat threatens to go underneath them, that forces them over. So we have a boat over early already, and now the threat is going away, but I think that people have mistimed this. Ooh. Not sure if they were able to clear or not. They were definitely over when the gun went off. So here's the boat in question. They may not have gotten back behind the line. To the right of them, the red boat with the jib under trimmed is an all Tufts boat because Will Pelletieri couldn't make it today with Jack Bitney at the helm. Taking the left start, 355. 335 is Phoebe with Fred Baker looking good coming off the pin because we started in a righty, which means he's sailing lift attack. The fleet has been headed a little bit, not that much. The right is still a little bit favored. 1587 is doing well. I believe that's Bob Perry. And 3369 is doing well. That's, I think, Perry maybe, or Rosen. And they're rolling a boat. Rolling Jonathan Austin's Wasabi. Well, no lefties yet, so the trio that start at the left end now they got a little lefty, and they're tacking. That's looking good for the red boat. Tack is a little slow, jib's a little under trimmed in general, particularly up top. They need to get that jib in. That looks a little better. But I'm not sure they're leading, but they're looking good. Here's the boat that was called over early. That's Eliza with Kevin Mullen at the helm. And then we have Fred Baker was the boat that took the pin in kind of an odd way, but they did pull it off. Lots of twists on Fred Baker's boat, particularly that jib. The jib is way out up top. Well, the red boat's struggling a little bit in the variable wind. 1587 on the right, they're looking good. That's, I'm not sure who that is. I think it might be Bob Perry. There's a port starboard coming up. And Frank McNamara had a tack and immediately dive underneath boats, otherwise he would have been tacking too close because he did not hail for room to tack early enough to invoke that particular rule. So he very wisely spun a tack to get out of trouble. And I think he's going to cross this next boat. Oh, now he's not looking too good. He could have. Oh, he still can. He still can. He could have made it. And he is indeed sort of making it. It's been a little frustrating trip for Frank McNamara here. Now he's got another starboard boat to deal with. Calls for room to dip. Not a required hail, but a very smart hail. And so, despite the frustrations, Frank's going to make it through here without fouling anybody. 1587 is first round. I believe it's Bob Perry, despite what the sheet says for numbers. And looks like Warp Drive is around second. That's Barry and Rosen. No Spinnaker, so as soon as we'll be seeing the jib getting winged very quickly here. The rule, you have to keep your torso inside of a line extending straight up from the lifelines. Third round is Kevin Mullen. Oh, what happened? I wish I was filming that. It looks like Red Boat was not given room at this mark. Oh, that's the racing class. Yeah, they don't know what they're doing. Yeah, see, that's a problem for the newcomer on the red boat is they didn't recognize that the racing class doesn't know what they're doing as much as the others do. And as such, they got pretty badly fouled there. And this boat was doing okay before with a reefed main. Somehow they ended up second to last. But it's a tight fleet. This race is far from over, given how tightly packed everyone is. We now have Fred in what looks like second to last after Lars did a penalty turn for hitting a mark. And he's gone out to the one side of the course. On the other side of the course, the boat that was in third to last, the red boat with the tough sailors, they're now headed in pressure, and they may gain 6 boats on this. Frank McNamara on Tony is in this back group, along with Blue Jay, with Matt Flynn at the helm. All good skippers back here and good crews in the back half of the fleet. It's going to be really interesting. Okay, we've got 3 boats now. 4 boats are spread out around the mark, but after that it's tight. It looks like Ika is the biggest winner on this run. Had gone from 13th to 7th on the run. Going the other side of the run, Fred Baker did not get the good pressure, and he's still back in 14th after having been about 12th. Oh no, I think he was actually 14th already. So we've got a nice even split down here. Current shift would favor the mark that Ika just rounded. However, they're rounding into a header, and they may want to get those sails in and also get on the other tack. Santuza made a wider rounding and will fall well behind. No threat to Ika. However, 58 made a good rounding. And that's Tim O'Day on Freedom. Out of that with a nice high line. All the boats that rounded the right mark and went left on the course, led by Stiletto, Adrian Hurd at the helm. They've been lifted a little bit on port, but not a lot. And they should be pretty close to, they're crossing Ika by a lot. Ika's on a horrible header, and they're not trimmed in all the way. So Ika, after a good rounding, did not play the shifts on this beat. They started in a header on port, and saw a puff, went for it on the right, tacked, and they're in a header all the way back on starboard. Okay, we got Bob Perry just squeezing on the mark. I mean, there's current here, but they make it. It's not as nearly as strong as we had last week. Eliza didn't come close to making this mark. 2 more tacks for them. And then Eliza's the boat that was hailed as being over early. Well, they kind of over-tacked with the main in and heeled a little too much coming out of this tack. Spin was a little fast for Kevin Mullen, who was about to tack back to the mark. Warp drive in third. Wasabi is trying to hang on to 4th. Ika and Blue Jay have both crawled back up a little bit later in the speed. I think Stiletto might be in a good position here to pick off Wasabi in 4th. Well, they tack into a bit of a header. Extra distance sailed. So Wasabi is probably going to try to tack under them, but then Wasabi's going to have some trouble with the current at the mark. That's Jonathan Austin at the helm, tacks way early for the mark, and he will have trouble at this mark. And they don't make it. They did not realize there was so much current here. And Blue Jay does not make the same mistake. Blue Jay goes underneath Ika, whose jib is still under trimmed, Ika, and Ika will make the mark easily. Blue Jay will very easily make the mark. Here comes Wasabi tacking in again. And Wasabi's going to have to luff to make this. But they've got a lifting blast, so they make it easily. There's a boat that tacks in that's not going to make the mark. That looks like, I'm watching the jib on this windward boat. They're definitely above close hauled by a little bit. So Jim Pettipaw is claiming that he was fouled, but Pettipaw might have tacked within the zone, which means that 18.3 does not apply. So I think that Fred might be okay there. Tacked into an overlap, and as such, you had room. Okay, now we've got. Now those were all good boats that made big comebacks, by the way. Now we've got the last 4 boats here, which were the boats that got passed by the more experienced teams in the run in the second beat. A little bit of current here. Santuza's not making it. Kai will just make it. And then DiCapo makes it easily, but it's a good skipper on DiCapo. They're disappointed to back this far. and the fleet's now spread out. So I don't think the Capo is going to be able to make much of a comeback. Okay, bad tack for the racing class. I got the jib back. Oh, they've got an override on the winch there. Brad's trying to get it out. Okay, looks like Bob Perry hangs on for the lead. He was threatened down the second beat, but simply made a better mark rounding. They're just about to finish. There is Eliza, finishing second, but I believe she was OCS. Didn't quite get back all the way on the start line. So that's going to give Warp Drive a second. So it looks like Ika is going to pull a third out of this because of the OCS in front of them and the fact that they got a nice righty here on this last leg. And despite the fact that the jib is too open up top. Blue Jay, looks like they're going to be fourth or fifth. I think fourth. It looks like Fred Baker moved all the way up. The Blue Jay? Yeah, I believe Blue Jay got that. And Fred Baker was next. And then, looks like Wasabi drops to sixth. And Stiletto, they were doing well earlier. It looks like they're going to be eighth down there. 87 slips in for seventh. 87 was Frank McNamara. And then Stiletto's Adrian Herr. And Lars is still trying to finish here, but he will do so easily. And there's a few more boats scattered down there.